Nope, we're live now.
Okay.
Hello, West Virginia. It's Monday, and so once again, we're bringing Mountain Mama candidates to you so you can get to know who's running for office, specifically women candidates here in the Mountain State, and talk about issues of importance to you so that you can ask questions, express your concerns, throw out your ideas, whatever it is that you as West Virginians want your candidates to know or what you want to know about them. We want to first thank everyone who is joining our live stream live. And if you're on the replay, we're so glad to have you here too. DL, how are you?
I am good, but your sound is a little wonky, where normally it's perfect.
Mine is?
Yeah, it's kind of going in and out. And
Okay.
I've had a lovely, what I'll call an Indian summer day, although I don't know why they call them that, but it is Indigenous Peoples Day, which is kind of every day for me, because even if it's just on Facebook, Indigenous people are a part of my life every day. But also, I've been listening to a song. It was a song that my nephew made for me back when he was like 12 years old by a band named Eugenius called Indian Summer. And I am just going to get off here after reminding people at the Mountain Mamas are a group of 21 women on your November ballot, all for the House of Delegates. They speak for themselves and they speak their minds and their hearts. You're going to hear that. But they do not speak for each other. They support each other. They help each other. They have got to know each other. Pretty sure they like each other. And we hope to have some fairly new faces on Mountain Mamas Mondays. I'm not sure Tess Jackson has been on during this general election season. I know that Trish Pritchard in Wood County has not been on. We're hoping to get her on here. Kayla Young is doing a healthcare forum, but she might actually be on later tonight. But for the first time of Mountain Mamas Monday, I want to do something that is often done in various forums as a way to honor and acknowledge the fact that those of us who are of European or other non-Turtle Island descent, we are on stolen land. And by Turtle Island, that is an indigenous word that goes from Canada down to Mexico. And when you see that land mass, you can sort of see the turtle. And you'll often see pictures of a medicine wheel, the red and yellow, black and white, inside a turtle. And because that is from Canada down to Mexico. But I have tried to get to know various real names for tribal groupings and where they were from. And with Kentucky and West Virginia, you often hear that we were mostly a hunting ground. But after some amount of reading and some discussion with people who have tried to find out what there is to know about the woodland Indians that were living in this part of Appalachia, I am going to go with us being on Monetan lands, Moneton. Now, in the more colonialist and post-revolutionary times, we had pretty much either killed or kicked out most of the indigenous people here. But I have had my say by putting kind of a rambling, I think, 6-minute video on Mount Mama's page, just speaking my mind and telling you some things about indigenous people. So, and I have on a T-shirt that says "Defend the Sacred," and indigenous sacred sites are one of the things that are very important to me. But with that, I will sit back and listen along with the rest of you. And thanks everyone for being here.
All right, great. It's so always good to have DL open the floor for us. And Nikki, I understand you are of Native American descent or indigenous. I can't say the
part.
word. So in part that is part of your history and your heritage.
It is. Well, as part of my lineage, I was never really involved with any kind of tribe, but yeah, we have Cherokee and Chippewa in my family, but we also have English and Irish, as it is in West Virginia. A lot of us come from different parts of the world. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, we have a lot to talk about tonight. Nikki, what you said earlier, though, before I forget, what is your name short for? It's not Nicole. Your name
It's
is
not Nicole. It's Nikatai.
Nikatai, which is
Yeah. It's my grandmother's name,
grandmother's name.
and I never got to know her. She died early. She died when my father was 3 years old, so I never got to know her. But I do have her name, so we're still connected.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, and for those of you that are joining us, I'll say my my spiel is, I know that there are some people out there that say that people want to rewrite our history, and I would just simply offer that we want to tell the real history, the true history, not a whitened version of it. And so, anywho, let's move on to some of the issues that we need to talk about tonight. Tess, well, first of all, Nikki, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, and we're going to go to Storm, Cindy, Tess, and Selena. So, Nikki, introduce yourself, and then we'll go to Storm.
Nikki Ardman. I'm running for House of Delegates in District 38, and that is Eastern Putnam County and westernmost Kanawha County.
All right, Storm, welcome.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Storm Charlie Frame, and I am running for the House of Delegates in the 66th District, which is the southernmost part of Jefferson County.
And folks, she's out dropping lit.
Yeah.
So she is coming to us from her car.
Yeah,
from her car.
Because daily, pretty much now until the election, we've been hitting the pavement for the past month, and so we're going to continue. We're going to be out and about every single night. So from 4 to 7, except for one night, which is my daughter's championship volleyball game. But from 4 to 7 every day, we are hanging literature on doors and talking to people who are outside, of course, masked up and safe. And we have a bus. And so we are making bus runs, and we're doing 2 caravans through the district to honk out corruption. And we've got all kinds of stuff happening up here in the Eastern Panhandle, and I'm really excited about it. We get to join on October 17th. We get to join the NAACP and the group of colored people for West Virginia, and take the bus throughout Jefferson and Berkeley County to try to get out the vote. So we're just everywhere. So yeah, I'm in my car.
Exciting.
But
that's okay. That's all right. Cindy, welcome. Introduce yourself to folks.
Hi, I'm Cindy Welch. I'm running for House of Delegates in District 6, which is Doddridge, Tyler, and a little chunk of Pleasance County, a little town called Arvilla out there in the wilderness. I went and found I drove through the county first to find all these little towns. I've been to places I've never been before.
Well, that is a great reason. One of the great reasons to run in the state of West Virginia is all the new people you meet and the places that you've not been before, you are introduced to. Tess.
Hi. Tess Jackson, running for the West Virginia House of Delegates in District 15. It's basically the center of Putnam County, Teays Valley, Winfield, and Hurricane. And I'm very excited to be here again.
In your little green space.
That's right. This is my this is my little oasis from the world. As a teacher, my life tends to be pretty stressful right now. And this is where I come to put all of that aside for at least a little bit and take
like
a phone
girls'
call
night.
or
Yeah. All right, Selena, you're muted.
Thank you. I'm Selena Vickers, and I'm running for House of Delegates in District 32. And that is it's a huge district. It encompasses 5 counties, all of Fayette County, the northern part of Raleigh, a little bit of Kanawha, Nicholas, and Clay counties. And I ran in 2018. I lost my primary by 66 votes, and really ran again. Was encouraged to run again, and glad I did. And looking forward to winning in November and serving the people of West Virginia in my district.
Well, it's great to have all of you here, and I am pleased to be here to serve as a moderator and to ask questions and sometimes be devil's advocate. But let's just get into things quickly. I want to bounce off something Storm said earlier about lit drops. And I'm going to punt it over to you, Nikki, because I understand you got some literature today that you want to talk about.
Actually, I got it a couple days ago.
Oh, okay.
From my opponent. And one of the things that she uses as her brand is about people with disabilities. And one of the bills that was up for vote, I guess, in the regular session this past year. Well, it was a bill that was written originally by Mike Pushkin and, well, others. But he sent it to her committee, and it was thrown out of committee. And the name of it was what it's for is for employment for people with disabilities, and so that they can be employed and gain some training. And I think it's a really good bill. It's a really good idea. However, it was thrown out of committee, but as I understand it, the reason is because she wanted that, since she is, this is part of her brand, and I understand branding, it's politics, I get it. But part of the brand is this champion for people with disabilities. And when something is thrown out that way, simply because you want to have your name on the bill first, I think that's wrong. And I believe in bipartisanship. I would never disregard a bill or throw out a bill or remove my support for a bill because a Republican wrote it or someone else's name was on it, even though it's something I'm really passionate about. However, she did reintroduce it with her name on it, and Mike Pushkin also sponsored it. He co-sponsored it, and I think that was a great move on his part because it wasn't about whose name was on it. It's about whether or not we can get this training and employment first for people with disabilities. And it ended up going to the Senate, and the Senate bill, but it died before the session was over. And I believe sometimes that happens to bills in order to, I don't know, sort of pull on the heartstrings of the public to gain, I guess, momentum and support for a special session. And I've never known, I can't remember the last time we didn't have a special session except for this year. And this year we really needed a special session for the legislators to come together and help organize and appropriate funds during this pandemic. And this is the one time in recent history, as far as I know, that we haven't had a special session. So I hope that this next session we can get employment first through the session. And and just incorporate it into West Virginia. I have 2 boys who both have autism. I have 4 children altogether, and my 2 youngest, they do have autism, and I'm hoping that they will continue to progress and be productive members of society. And I'm sure they have a lot to offer.
Absolutely. So let me make sure I understand and that others folks understand. So Delegate Pushkin, who is a Democrat, introduced a bill. So he was the lead sponsor. So his name was up at top. And then typically legislation has co-sponsors.
Yes.
So then when a bill is introduced on the first reading, it is assigned to a committee.
Yes.
This went to committee.
Yes.
And it was not heard in committee. It was basically not ever brought up, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
and
so
that decision was made by my opponent.
Who is the chair of the committee?
I'm not sure if she's the chair. She may be.
Okay, so, but then this person went and reintroduced the same bill, essentially, with her name on top, and then had co-sponsors, which included Delegate Pushkin.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, but then that bill ended up dying because it got sent to the wrong committee.
Yes.
I'm just trying to understand here. Just bear with me here. Okay, so this is always hard for me because when I worked in Missouri in the legislature there, it was first of all, we never had special sessions because it was January through May. It was our session, so we never had special sessions and actually passed legislation and got stuff done. But we also had leadership that was very much in tune with sharing the love, so to speak, having multiple people from different parties on bills. It was just, that's the way it was done then. So this is all pretty foreign to me. It's not foreign to me. I shouldn't say it that way, but I would, like to think that, anytime a bill is brought forward, if it's a good idea, that co-sponsors can all come together. But I digress, and I shan't digress anymore. But let's pivot just a let's hope, though, once you're elected, that that can be something that you can be part of co-sponsoring or sponsoring, whatever you choose to do, and that it can be a bipartisan effort, because I think that's one of the things we need to move back to is people, not party. And there has to be, there is a party in power, yes, but what does that exactly mean for the people? I mean, in the end, who won? Who ended up losing from that move? Was that
right?
Well, and if I can piggyback real quick, you kind of mentioned it and kind of glossed over it, but like in our legislature this year during the regular session, they had an $8 million coronavirus funding bill that I know for sure. You guys probably know for your races, but in my race, my opponent voted against it. And that kind of shortedness is just something that we don't have time for. We shouldn't need a special session to get things done that just need done. And the coronavirus had already been shown to be very serious, and it may not have been here yet, but they opted not to pass that bill as a legislature. And we need to hold them accountable for things like that.
Well, and maybe 210,000 plus people dying can be the accountability factor. I mean, I'm, it's a problem. And I heard today that they are estimating that the cost of the coronavirus to our nation will be $20 trillion. That was a conservative estimate. So, we got to get on top of it. That's for sure. And, Nikki, I know you said that the kids are now back in school 5 days a week in Kanawha County.
Yes, today was the first day.
Mm-hmm. Tess, I saw that. So they're back in school with you too, 5 days a week.
Well, I live in Putnam and I teach in Cabell. And I have been very, very lucky that Cabell County, first of all, the Cabell County Board has a really excellent relationship with the staff and with both of the teachers' unions. Are open to and seek out our feedback regularly. And Cabell County decided before school started back that they were going to do the blended model all the way to January, regardless of the governor's map, which is great because I feel deeply for the people who have to watch that map every week and panic about what it means for their kids and teachers for what they're doing. So we've been really lucky. I am in a place where my largest class is 11 students. All of my desks are 6 feet apart. I've mostly been provided with all the cleaning materials that I need. Like, I'm stressed, but I cannot even fathom what it would be like to teach in a county that wasn't doing any of those things. We've still had community-based spread within schools. Just a couple of weeks ago, 2 of the middle schools were flat closed because we didn't have enough substitutes to cover all the teachers that needed to quarantine. So Cabell County is doing a much better job than most of managing it. But that doesn't mean it's not still happening. And I've been keeping an eye on Kanawha County, and it's one of the ones that makes me really nervous. Putnam County has been all kinds of different colors. Every time they change the map, it seems like they have different colors for it, and they just kind of make up the numbers and pick whichever ones they like best. And that's been really stressful. I know for parents and students and teachers, but we have not gotten to the point until last week where there was any availability for 5-day. And my little one is virtual schooling. And I know how difficult on the flip side of the coin it is to be able to do that, to be able to keep your child home. I've talked personally with a lot of grandparents who are taking care of their grandbabies because parents have to work and the kids have to be home all day, and they're kind of taking on that for the kids' safety. But yeah, I will always oh my God, about what's going on with school, because it's been nightmarishly stressful for everyone involved.
I want
Let me
to go ahead, Storm, because you're a teacher.
So I'm in Jefferson County, and we watch that on Saturday nights because we are in school 5 days a week. And they did this thing in Jefferson County, which I think they thought they were being forward thinking, and they developed this thing called the Jefferson Virtual Academy over the summer. And so as teachers, we all
Whoops.
Oh, we lost. Okay. Well, while we're getting her back, I do want to bring something up, Tess, that you or Nikki mentioned. I'm not sure. And that is, what am I hearing about duplicate negative testing?
People have decided to sort of stack the testing by going for multiple tests at different sites, because if they know that they're negative for COVID, then they could go to several sites to give more negative results, and that increases the number of negatives, which changes, of course, the percentage of positives within that group.
So tell me, what is the benefit to that? I mean, and
I can sort of speak
okay.
to it. Storm might be back.
I'll
answer that question real quick, and then we can go back to Storm.
Right.
In Putnam County, there was also kind of a surge. So metrics-wise for the school map, what they did, it was either 2 or 3 weeks ago, was that previously the way that they had been doing the map was by the number of cases, positive cases per 100,000 people within the county. And so that had been the metric that they were using. And then they introduced as a secondary measure a percentage of overall positive tests. And then they decided that based on the map, they were going to take whichever was lower. So you might be orange in the per 100,000 cases, but if less than 3% of the total cases are positive based on how many tests they did, then they can use a lower level on the map. And I've been really frustrated by that. I have been going, myself and my family, we have been going every time there's free testing in the county and getting tested because I am exposed to kids all day long. Like it's been a risk for us. And so we've been going and testing just to know and to be safe so that we know that we can be around my grandparents and to be around other people. And it's almost like now they're trying to penalize people who want to get tested more often, even though they're not showing symptoms. And that's been one of the really frustrating things, is because I also understand that there's been a movement of people saying, if you know you're negative, go get tested to make the numbers better.
That's
but
what
it's
I was just
also
getting
like,
ready to jump on. That's exactly what's happening in our area so that we are green. We have heard from people who are going to get tested so that the percentage is smaller of positive tests.
So it's just to skew the numbers, essentially.
Yes.
Yes.
But then on the other hand,
but in some cases that backfired because they found positives they didn't know they had. They tried that. It didn't work.
Well, and thank goodness they were found. But I was just getting ready to say that it sounds to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm wrong often, that you've got people who are trying to skew the numbers, but then you've got teachers who are trying to make sure they stay COVID free, and who are getting multiple tests. And
that's true. Yeah.
I mean, and I'm not saying that. I think anybody who is an essential employee, teaching children, healthcare professionals, those types of people, they need to be getting tested on a regular basis. But it does concern me a little bit that we've got people out there whose legitimate reason for getting tested, or I shouldn't say legitimate, but the reason they're getting tested is so that they can show a higher number of negatives versus positives.
Well, and this has been one of the things that I've been really focused on here lately because I teach, and there are a lot of people who are really focused on it in Putnam County. And in my opinion, the problem is the introduction of that second measure. We should not be penalizing people in counties because people want to go get tested. What we should be doing is incentivizing more people to go get tested so that we have an accurate picture of what's going on in a county. Because ultimately, that is what we want. We want to know who's positive, and the best way to find that out is for more people to get tested. But after they introduced the 3% or less total positives in a given week, they allowed the state level government to use that measure against us, essentially, which is why previously we've been using the total number of positive cases over 100,000 people in the population. It was a pretty objective measure. It wasn't skewed by how many people did or did not get tested, because you can also have the opposite happen. If 10 people get tested and that's it, and they're all positive, you're at 100%. And that's totally not accurate for that area either. So really, my big qualm with it is that it's just a stupid measure to try and keep more schools open. And it's really kind of shooting us in the foot, because if we're not getting an accurate picture of what it looks like in a county, then more people are likely to get sick.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, obviously, we want everyone to be safe. We want people to stay healthy. I know I'm concerned for my family and friends, specifically my parents and my twin sister. Let's pivot just a little bit, if we could. Storm, let's talk about. It's been a while since you've been on here. Let's hear from you. How are things going up there? Tell me what you're hearing from constituents. Go ahead.
Let me finish what I was saying about education before. Mm-hmm. So the county decided to have this Jefferson Virtual Academy, and the teachers and administrators thought that meant teachers and service personnel who had volunteered, you could sign up to do virtual, would then be teaching those virtual students. But we found out the Friday before we reported back to work, so Friday the 21st, that we were teaching those students as well. So we have in some schools 30 to 50%, it varies by school, of students who are virtual. So I have classes, and several other teachers have classes where they are teaching virtual and in-person students at the exact same time, simultaneously. And it's extremely difficult. We also have class sizes that are much larger than they should be because they didn't have enough virtual sections. We also have a ton of teachers, which they have compensated. I will give the board credit, or superintendent, that they have compensated those teachers 1/7 of their pay for their planning. But we have lots of teachers at the secondary, middle school, and high school level who are giving up their planning period to teach an additional section of students, because we just don't have enough teachers to teach all of the sections. And then I have 2 high schoolers whose all of their classes weren't offered because in order to have all of the sections for the virtual academy and the in-person students, they don't have enough teachers. So it's been very problematic. I can't say enough good things about the board, in that I do honestly believe they are trying. I think that they thought in their minds, oh, this is a great idea and this will take off stress. And instead it's done the opposite. We have a lot of teachers who, like me, are teaching simultaneously, and it's been interesting. So,
well, and anyway. I would hope that after this and during session, maybe a special committee could be put together, bipartisan, that maybe it's a joint committee with Senate and House members, that would be kind of a debriefing of how things worked, how things didn't work, and putting together a plan. Because we're told by experts this is not going to be the only epidemic. We know every year that the flu season happens, and that kids, sometimes they stop school for a full week so that kids can get better. And when you've got multiple children, and then you have it sharing it with every kid, and then it goes to different schools. So imagine that now we have it with COVID. So I would hope that there would be maybe a joint committee that is named that could prepare for this in the future. Okay, well, let's pivot a little bit, because I know Selena, well, hold on, before we go back to Selena, let me finish this one. Tell me, Storm, what you're hearing from your constituents there, because you haven't been on here for a while, and I'd kind of like to hear, in addition to the school issues, what else are you hearing in your area?
So, of course, broadband has been an issue. Our family is fortunate that we have Comcast, but I know that the first couple weeks, I have 4 children at home doing virtual, and the first few weeks, the internet was in and out. They missed their whole morning classes because we didn't have internet, and we're supposed to have, strong broadband internet. So, my opponent worked for Frontier when he was in the House, in leadership role in the House of Delegates, and they secured a deal where they got millions from our state in order to put in better broadband, and they haven't done it. So it's time that we hold them accountable, and everybody's feeling that pain, everybody's feeling that frustration, and everybody's ready. Everybody that I've talked to is ready to have a solution where we actually work at the State House, and we come up with a plan, and we work with companies, and we do what's right for the people. And
if I'm correct, Storm, that the state is paying that money back to the federal government because we did not spend it appropriately. So not only did we not do what we said we were going to do, now we're having to pay that money back because we didn't say what we were, we didn't do what we said we were going to do with the money, that we did receive. So it's my understanding, I could be wrong, but I don't think I am, that we are now paying that money back.
Right.
So, all right, let's pivot just a little bit. Selena, tell us, how are things going with your candidacy, with your race? Votes, man, that's close.
I think it's going really well. I feel very good about it. Every time I talk to constituents, they're excited to vote for me. I talked to one of the head of the UMWA today, and he told me his block of 12 family that they're all voting for me. I feel good about it. I feel good about the conversations I'm having with people. I mean, there is a lot of hurting people, and there's a lot of issues. Just now, you guys were talking about broadband. I remember years ago, we said, if West Virginia is going to grow, if we're going to have, in terms of small businesses, we have to expand broadband. Well, now, because of this pandemic, it is so clear, not only, one, people are working from home. I've been working from home since March. But, in order for people, for kids to have access to their school, they have to have access. This should have been fixed years ago, and it has to be fixed this legislative session. We have to make sure that people, for their work and for their kids to have an education, if they choose, or if we don't get the vaccination, if people choose not to continue the virtual work, we have to get this done. One of the things that, it is amazing when you talk to people, things that you don't know will come up. And I had this really interesting conversation with a retired coal miner the other day that has put me on a path that related to a state black lung bill that I wanted to talk a little bit about. And this is not to take anything away from the issues of the pandemic. That is, absolutely critical. But when we think about it, COVID causes breathing problems, and some people are able to recover from it, and some people are not, and unfortunately they die. Our people that have gone into the mines have struggled with a breathing disorder that almost all, if you're in the mines 10 years or more, you're pretty much guaranteed to have black lung disease, and there's no cure for it. There's no cure for it. Basically, the coal dust and the silica gets in your lungs and just creates scars, and those scars can't heal, and they join with other scars, and it's a really miserable disease. My papa had it and died from it. From the time I was a little bitty thing, I remember him being on oxygen. He would walk bent over. He slept in a lazy boy because he couldn't lay down flat and breathe. It is a miserable disease, and there's a federal black lung bill, but they make it so hard for them to get those benefits, to get some kind of release for that. From 2007 to 2017, and in 10 years, there were about 52,000 miners that applied for federal black lung, and only 7,000 of them got it and were eligible. So it was 14%. They make it so hard for them to get it, and they so much struggle with this disease. And so a few years ago, some West Virginia miners got together, and they said, yes, we want the federal problem fixed. Yes, we're going to advocate for that. But in the meantime, West Virginia has benefited, from I mean, there's millions and gazillions of dollars that have come out of West Virginia with coal, and we owe those miners something for the lungs and the broken bones and all the hurt that they have given to the coal industry. And so they came up with a West Virginia Black Lung program, which basically means that what it means is if they were in the mines for 10 years, they would be eligible for, get this, $300 a month. Okay. And then it would expand the more years that they had. I mean, that's not very much, but it would help maybe pay for some of the pain and suffering that they have because of this disease. So this has been introduced a couple years, never gets anywhere. Nikki was talking about bills that never get out of committee. This bill doesn't get out of committee each time. It's a shame. We owe them more, and that is one of my pledges, is to introduce and to work with other people to get co-sponsors for this bill, and to, if I win this election, I'm going to do everything I can to see that we do have a West Virginia Black Lung program for West Virginia retired miners or miners.
I'm really shocked that we don't already. That's kind of disturbing. I mean, that's really disturbing.
Yeah.
Well, it's disturbing that the
I'd like
federal
to
government makes it so hard for people.
Right. And I do know that there is a federal bill, but I guess I was just naive enough to think that the state had already passed a local bill, a state bill.
Mm-mm.
Wow.
No, and and I go back to, I know I don't know everybody's campaign finance, but a big thing that I have focused on, and DL fusses at me because I talk about it too much, but I think it's the core issue is campaign finance reform. And you start taking that money from those coal people, and then you got a bill like this, and they come after you. Oh no, come on, you really don't want to pull that out of committee, and don't take the PAC money, don't take the corporate money, and stand with your people. That's what I say. That's what I want to do.
Well,
I'm in on that.
yeah.
I hope we all get elected and we can sponsor this bill.
Well, and let's hope that, it can be a bipartisan bill. I mean,
yes,
what I'm hearing is, that's what I'm hearing is that
should be. Even
though, let's say you want to sponsor it, if what I'm hearing, if I'm wrong, tell me, that if someone else comes along and says, well, we want someone else to sponsor it, but you can be a co-sponsor, you're going to say, sure.
Yes.
Right? I mean,
well, let me tell you, okay. Guys, politics is really ugly. And it is, often I think, I'm not positive, but I think the majority of people on this call are Democrats. But I tell you, okay, let's take this Supreme Court thing going on right now. Everybody's screaming about the Republicans because they're pushing through this, Supreme Court justice. Do you think for 1 second, if the Democrats had the presidency and the Senate, that they wouldn't be doing the exact same thing? I mean, they absolutely would. People in power do what they can to stay in power, and that is politics, and it is ugly, and I hate it, and I'm going to do everything I can to separate myself from that. And if there is somebody, I don't care what letter is beside their name, if they want to work for the people of West Virginia, I will stand beside them.
Let's pause there for a moment. Storm, I understand you have to go. I know you're lit dropping. Is there anything you want to add before you leave?
No, I'll just say if you want to find more information about my campaign, it's framewv.com. And all of my social media handles are at Frame the House. So thank you so much.
House.
I gotta go, but thank you, and see you guys soon.
All right, bye.
Take care. Be safe.
Well, Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. Um, in terms of people working together, and I'm going to add this, and is there anyone here who's an attorney besides DL? No? Okay, so here was my question, and we'll bring DL on here in a minute. Maybe I can pose this. This is what I don't understand. And again, I'm not the brightest bulb in the box, but if I were a Supreme Court nominee who is a person of law and also a person of faith, and someone made a promise that says, we will not be taking up, and actually, let's not say someone, the committee chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee says, we're not going to be taking up a Supreme Court nominee before the election. If I were that nominee, I would have a real problem dismissing that so readily, because it's on two fronts. One, this is my opinion, that senator made a verbal contract with the country. And he said, you can hold me accountable. Two, if you make a promise or you commit to something, you need to keep that commitment. So I'm struggling with that a little bit. Does anybody else, I mean, am I the only one?
Sarah, there are people, I mean, here's the bottom line. People say and it's happened over and over and over again, and it's happened on both sides, that people say whatever they think will change public opinion at that moment to get them where they want to go. And we elect liars. And when we elect liars and they show that they're liars and we reelect them again, we get exactly what we deserve. And that's what happens over and over again. So Lindsey Graham, he said what he needed to say at the moment to get what he wanted. He's saying and doing what he can now to get what he wants. I mean, he said something that I think is really, really important. And he said it very snippy, that if you want to control who's on the Supreme Court, you have to win elections. And he's absolutely right about that. So,
absolutely.
I mean, if you have to win elections, you have to win presidential elections and you have to win Senate elections if you want to control who's on the Supreme Court.
Well, and maybe we can take this offline, but here's what I don't understand. And not that I disagree with you at all. I don't. But at the time Lindsey Graham said that, he had nothing to gain. Nothing. The Senate had said, we're not going to hold a hearing when because Obama was still in office. We're not going to hold a hearing because it's too, and it was February before the election. So we had 10 months to go before the election. They said, we're not going to hold this. We're going to wait for the election. And at that time, he was not up for election. He was already 2 years into his term. So that's where I'm having this disconnect a little bit, because he said the Democrats would do the same thing.
They would.
And so,
absolutely.
Yes. Who wants to chime in? I mean, again, I don't want to take all the time.
Be honest.
Can I chime in a little bit?
Sure.
I don't really want to talk about what's going on at the national level, because even if all of us got elected to the West Virginia House, there's not a damn thing we could do about what's going on in the federal government.
Absolutely.
But I will take a moment here to say that local elections really matter. The judges that we elect, first of all, they're nonpartisan offices, or they should be, because their focus is on the law, not on a party or a given set of beliefs. And those are the people who ultimately progress throughout their career to the point of having the possibility of being appointed to the Supreme Court. And we saw in West Virginia not that long ago what it was like to realize the entire court system was corrupted. It took a $30,000 couch and a newspaper article, but we had to make the decision to change everything. And those are elected offices. If you think for 1 minute that your local magistrate race doesn't matter, but you care about what's going on in the Supreme Court, then you're missing you're missing the reason that your vote matters, especially in nonpartisan races. And that's why you should really dig into some of those offices and what those people stand for and what their credentials are and why they're in those races.
Such a good point. Such a good point. Tess should just moderate from here on. I mean, that was, spot on. I mean, it's,
and this is not my sign off.
What's that?
This is not my sign off, but as Tess pointed out, Mountain Mamas is about electing people to the legislature, but I don't think there's not a thing you can do about anything on any level. But yeah, I mean, we are focusing on getting more women, forward-thinking women in the West Virginia legislature. But let me assure you, Sarah, that I'm not going to call politicians liars, but if you think that you can hold a politician legally accountable for something they say on the campaign trail, and people don't even hold them morally accountable, ethically accountable. I mean, we have seen politicians who aren't held accountable in any regard, even though they make a statement one day and totally contradict it the next. And that is the fault of the voters and the media and whatever it is. But on the issue of the Supreme Court, we're not getting into that, but obviously it is an issue that affects West Virginians, it affects women, and we did promise to provide, some resources on it. So just know that the Kanawha Valley National Organization for Women is going to try to have a presence outside of Senator Capito's office. It started at noon today, and they hope to have a presence there every weekday through the election, through the vote, unless something happens that these Judiciary Committee meetings stop. And also there is a women's march in Beckley that is part of a national march, not only in DC, but in scores of cities throughout the country. And that is in Beckley next Saturday on October 17th. So, we'll get back here to West Virginia issues, but we can do something on a lot of levels. But the first I need to defend Selena's comment about, because she's killing the messenger on campaign finance. Because
here's what.
Let me say, the one thing that Mountain Mamas have to agree on is that they will take every opportunity to change how elections work, how they are financed. They will get to know the bullet points of the Citizen Coalition for Clean Elections. So yes, Selena and I have talked about this and many other things, but it is because some of her constituents want to hear about things. But Selena, you can harp on the mess that is campaign finance and voting rights and election reform as much as you want to. And whatever I say to you is not because I don't agree with you 100%. Some people think it doesn't get you votes, but I know that there are some of us that, we're not single issue voters, but that is the high up on the top issue, because it is the umbrella issue that will change politics as we know it.
Well,
so go on.
Well, and this clearly demonstrates what I want to say to those who are watching either live or on the replay. One of the things that's great about these kind of conversations is that, and I think it's clear here, that sometimes we agree, sometimes we disagree, and sometimes conversations lead us to points that need to be made. So here we are talking about a Supreme Court, and we're reminded so eloquently that while that's important, it's our local elections that are so critical to West Virginians. And so that is, again, point so well taken that while those are important, that it is so critical to know who you're voting for and why are you voting for them. What's the reason, and getting to know who they are. I mean, and what they stand for, what they don't stand for, whatever. Just educate and be aware of who you're voting for, and vote. Tomorrow is the last day to register to vote.
Exactly.
So don't forget to register to vote.
the registration, right? Tomorrow, October 13th, especially if you know a 17-year-old who has a birthday, an 18th birthday in a couple of weeks, get him or her to register. And early voting starts on the 21st through the 31st. And I'm telling you, there's a lot of things on this ballot that are trick or treat choices. So you find out who's tricking and you find out who's treating. And again, you know who you're voting for. This probably will be the last time that I'll have my absentee ballot, because hopefully I will deliver it, but it comes in a big fancy official looking envelope. You get your ballot, you get your envelope number 1 that keeps it a secret ballot, and then you put it inside the one you mail, and that's the one that you need to turn over on the back and make sure you fill out everything that is pertinent to you. Some of them are if you're not able to sign your own name and need a witness. There's another place to sign if you're having someone else deliver your ballot to your county clerk. But do sign this ballot or it gets tossed into the provisional and you want counted just as soon as your ballot can be counted. Now, for the rest of this time, I am speaking for myself, and some of you are going to get nervous because I'm going to remind y'all that, having a filter is not my strong point. But when you all said something about getting to meet people, I remembered something from when my dad was running for Congress in 1980, and a Republican was elected from this district. We had 4 Congress people then. We get sent 2 Republicans, which was unusual. And as anyone who has lost an election knows, man, the day after election is a tough time. And I was trying to make my dad feel better. And I was talking about all the nice people he met. And my dad never cussed. He never cussed. He said, yeah, I met a lot of assholes too. And I don't care who you are, that's true, because our definition of who's an asshole is going to switch around. But in this polarized state, everybody's on edge, everybody's triggered. And especially when I look at this, when we had 4 teachers on, I consider Selena an educator, and just the fact that you are keeping up with your life, your family life, and still putting yourself out there to run for office. I just laud you. I commend you. I love you. You are sheroes in my mind. And that brings up Selena's job, and she doesn't know I'm going to say this, but she works for a private contractor that used to be called RESA, and it was something like Regional Education Support Agency or something like that. And I was the counsel for the West Virginia Legislature when that bill was passed. And I've heard some things from various sources that move to private contracting was not good for education in West Virginia. So I'm just commenting that I consider the people that are working for those regional associations to be a part of our educational community, and I hear it needs some work, and so that's something that I hope Mountain Mamas will look to when they're in a position at the legislature to ask some questions and make some changes. Okay, the other thing that is just me, but I also worked for the Attorney General, and I started with McGraw, and I worked for Morrissey, and I just want everyone to know that after I listened to Sam Petzock play his banjo and sing the West Virginia Hills with Randy Gilkey, Sam Petzock is an honorary Mountain Mama.
Those are strong words from DL.
Yes. And because I really can't stand it when most politicians call themselves humble. Now, Senator Stephen Baldwin, he can get away with it, a few others, but, most of them, when Selena says liar, that's what goes through my head every time he says, they get up and I'm humbled. But I do believe that Sam Petzock, when he's getting ready to play with Randy Gilkey, was truly and authentically humbled to do the West Virginia Hills with him. So that fabulous video of that great song is on Mountain Mama's Facebook page. Our Facebook page didn't grow much since last week, so still give it some likes. Trying to get up to 5,000. We also are taking donations because what Facebook takes out of my bank account seems way more than I'm telling Facebook to spend on my boosting. But, if you give me money, I will spend it wisely, getting these 21 women, trying to get these 21 women elected over the next few weeks. And again, if you would like to know more about any of the 21, go to mountainmamawestvirginia.org. Every one of them has a page where you can learn more, and there's a donate button from there that you can go straight to supporting their campaign directly. And
let me add,
more Mountain Mamas.
Let me add real quick. I'm sorry that Cindy was having some internet problems. I know, go figure. Surprise. And I think she finally got booted off somehow. I don't know. Again, it's internet in West Virginia. But if she's on next week, I definitely want to give her more floor time. I know that when there was some again some connectivity issues. So I'm bummed that
she is Doddridge and Taylor County, which may say enough about her broadband issues.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the story all too often around.
Tyler.
Yeah, all too often that is the case in many West Virginia counties, and as our educators have alluded to, there's a lot of kids who don't have internet at home or don't have access to internet at home, or it's very poor internet at home. One of my neighbors in Wirt County, they have dial-up internet. I'm not kidding. So anyway, but ladies, we are over our allotted time. I think we talked about a lot of really great issues. Nikki, you really talked at heart about the disability bill that died last session and the need for it to be brought forward again this session. And if elected, I know that you'll be a big champion of that, whether it's as a sponsor or as a co-sponsor. And the same thing applies for you, Selena, that if you're elected, you're going to look at the people of West Virginia and you'll work with parties and people to get legislation passed. And Tess, I'll tell you this, but all of this applies to all of you, but especially you. You are a legislative natural. When it comes to policy, you are a natural because you connect the dots so easily. So that's an incredibly impressive thing. But I know at heart you're an educator and you really care about the kids here in West Virginia. And I know once elected, that'll be one of your primary focus, along with Storm and Nikki and really it's all about the people of West Virginia. And again, we have some really great guys in the legislature, and I don't want to take away from that, but we really need some more really great women in the legislature. So if you're watching this live yes.
If I can bring up Ruth Bader Ginsburg, God
sure.
bless her. When asked how many women would be enough on the Supreme Court, and she replied, all 9, because we've had 9 men before. There will be enough women in the West Virginia legislature when they're all women. It would be terrific.
Yeah, and it really goes to, and I literally speak to everybody who's watching, regardless of what your party affiliation is. What it really comes down to is a diverse representation for all West Virginians, whether they're people of color, LGBTQ, working party, white collar, it doesn't matter. That everybody needs a voice at the table. Everybody needs representation. So again, that's why we talk on platforms like this, and we have conversations. We don't always agree. And sometimes we get off message a little bit. We go down rabbit holes.
If you're not at the table, you might be on the menu.
There you go. I can't think of a better way to end this conversation than with that wonderful little gem morsel from DL. Ladies, thank you so much for the courage to run for office. Thank you for the courage to speak truth. Thank you for the courage to stand up for people who don't have a voice. And, join us again next week. We'll be here again, same time, same place. If you have questions, concerns, ideas, suggestions, constructive criticism, we'll be here, and we will be here to listen. So get your questions ready. If you don't want to put it online, you can send us an email. We've put an email out there. It's a private email, and you're more than welcome to use that to send an anonymous question that we will answer right here on Mondays with Mountain Mamas. Ladies,
teach the children well.
Teach the children well.
Thank you.
Good
Have a
night,